This was cool. Alice Cooper, right, interviewed Alan Jones, right, talking to him, and apparently, Alan, right, Cooper only agreed to be interviewed by me because the interviewer, he wrote a book about Dario Argento, and he's big. I mean, he's a big horror fan. I mean, Cooper, when he talks, this dude was into this stuff, right? This guy was into like the whole thing. He's like the Monster Kid, and more. So, in terms of music too, like Alice Cooper, man, dude, those albums, man, love it to death. I mean, the early stuff was insane, the Zappa stuff, but the official albums, right? Love it to death, killer, fucking killer, man. What an album! Listen to that album if you don't know what I'm talking about. Killer is um it's scary. There's nothing like it in that time period, like 1971 or whatever. Of course, Million Dollar Babies, School's Out, even Muscle of Love. But like those albums were amazing. But I'm here to talk about the interview here. That was interesting that he got to the eventually he played in this theater in Detroit, right? Um, that they actually you saw films in it, but also he was playing on the stage there. So it's interesting that when he was a kid, he used to watch horror films there. So yeah, living in Detroit, right? 6 years old, early 50s. You and your buddies every Saturday they will see black and white horror movies. My mother saw a lot of horror movies. They still had in the 50s, in Allentown anyway. They still had like multi features. They had newsreels still. A lot of people didn't have television. So you would go there for a couple of hours, and for some reason, my grandfather brought her to films to see the movie Them, which scared the hell out of her. The horror of Dracula, which scared the hell out of her. I thought it was funny that my grandfather was watching these horror movies. I figured he wouldn't have much for them. He had seen enough horror in Russia in the 40s, but um, I like how he's bringing this up. And going here, it's interesting, the horror gig. He did that special, which I have not seen, the Welcome to My Nightmare album with Vincent Price. You think I would have seen that? I've seen bits and pieces of it, but uh, and I like that. I like how he's frank. He's like, yeah, I was an alcoholic, so I didn't appreciate it at the time. Right? He was a big alcoholic. He was already sober by like the 80s. Right? Ozzy should have done that. Yeah. He starts going over the Herschel's films. I haven't seen these either. You know. I just never was into it. But this was fascinating to me. This I didn't know about Alice. Right? Two genre film characters inspire your Alice Cooper stage persona. Oh, okay. Betty Davis playing the title role. Whatever happened to Baby Jane? Oh, okay, I can see that. I can see that. So I'm right off the bat. It's like his name is Alice, right? She asked me why the singer's name was Alice, right? So all right off the bat, this dude, this is edgy stuff in the '70s, right? And Anita Pallenberg as the Black Queen and Barbarella. Yeah, remember the bad this chick? This influenced him too. I thought that was interesting that my man is influenced, by these two for the Alice Cooper persona. I like that, man. I like the idea of a persona. So I like this. Funny, Bay Davis was his neighbor in Greenwich, Connecticut. Interesting. So, yeah, this was a lot of fun. Now I don't agree with this. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, right? The Time Warp song is brilliant. It's the reason why De Palma's Phantom of Paradise didn't have the same horsepower because the soundtrack wasn't so great. Yo, I don't agree with you. I like your music, Alice, but I don't agree with you. Okay, I think the music in Phantom of Paradise holds up very well. So, and it's a better film than the Rocky Horror Picture Show, even though this guy was brilliant. So, uh, I know he's a big Toby Hooper fan. Life Force. He liked Life Force. Life Force is one of the best figure movies that always gets dissed all the time. Right? I like he's like, yeah, he thinks the Evil Dead is a student film. It's like a step above, I guess. Right? Yeah, I'm gonna check that out too. I haven't seen Within the Woods. That was the student film, but and of course, Monster Dog. Yo, Monster Dog is awesome, dude. You read this? This movie was crazy. This is an awesome film, man. And he says, I was dubbed by a Barcelona truck driver. Well, I heard obviously he was dubbed in the film. He was dubbed by all the voices you hear in the Italian horror films, but of course, Prince of Darkness. No, dude, Prince of Darkness, man. That you want to talk about another great film that is people overlook talk about end of the world, man. Talk about original. Talk about creepy, man. And there's other stuff. I like how they go cameo appearances. interesting. Mae West in a hilarious camp fiasco, sextet. I never heard of that. I want to check that out. The cult rocker Rhodey, right? They don't mention. Was he? Remember Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the movie with the fuck? What is his name? I'm sorry to curse. What's his name? Peter Frampton. Apparently, he's a villain in that. I haven't seen that. Of course, Wayne's World, right? We are not worthy. We're not worthy. Remember, uh, Milwaukee, which means the good land. Uh, did you know that Milwaukee was one of three American cities to elect socialist mayors? Right? Do you know what the other two cities were, guys? I know. Bridgeport, Connecticut, and Reading, Pennsylvania. So, in all three cities, I will say, and it's not because of the mayors were socialist. I mean, this is like the 20s or whatever. I mean, those three cities are great places to visit. I recommend my overseas friends to go and hang out in those places. But anyway, right, you talk about Rob Zombie. Why did he? They're asking him why would he ever want to direct his own film? But he understands, right? With music, you have a lot more freedom, all right? Especially a guy with his clout, you have a lot more freedom to make the music. Okay, making films, you gotta satisfy the money man. Oh, careful, Alice, careful. So I wouldn't have patience to direct. I wouldn't mind writing a script. I thought that was cool. Yeah, this was great, man. This was great. This was awesome. Alice. I remember that one, the spider in Black Widow, right? That turned out to be his wife. And his wife is hot, man. His wife is still hot. She stayed in shape and everything. I always thought his wife was beautiful. So good luck. Good for you, Alice, man. Alice is a cool dude. So, and he's a big Argento fan on top of everything. So, this is one of the most underrated Hammer films ever. The Damned, or These Are the Damned, right? Really, man, this movie's so damn bleak, man. You have a lot of bleak science fiction, usually British, the proud British tradition of intelligent science fiction, right? And this is definitely in that vein. And I like how it opens up, because it opens up almost like you got these teddy boys, this gang in Dorset messing with the American tourist guy who I can't stand. But eventually it becomes you get conspiracies. Okay, it's actually the movie's more relevant to me today, or to today, than what these people had envisioned. The director of it was one of those blacklisted Americans who was a communist sympathizer, right? And so you know how I feel about all that, but I'm not going to bring that up too much, because the point is moot now. Okay, the country that was going to really destroy everything, wasn't the Soviet Union, and that's a bitter red pill to have to take, isn't it? But I like how the author, though, brings up the fact that the House of Un-American Activities that went after communist sympathizers was a new one. Remember, the original one was in the 40s. They were going after somebody else. Although they did go after a few Trotskyites, because the Stalinist communism was the flavor, Uncle Joe. But the film in general, it's great. Beautiful actors here. Oliver Reed's always cool. The dude, man. As menacing as this guy was, you also knew he was smart as a whip, right? The American guy I don't like so much. They always had to put an American in these films, and to me it detracts. Although I thought it was interesting that the British Board of Film Censors, usually they're anti-Hammer, so I don't approve of them. But they were made a good point here that I'm sure the left-wing director would look at a less jaundiced eye on repression and regimentation from the left. Well, isn't that the whole story, right? The corporate, in the end, the left wing values you have, which would have made a communist, look askance. Actually, it wouldn't have been allowed in the Soviet Union, all the insanity you see today. They wouldn't have allowed that at all. What enabled that was capitalism. But if you make that link, right, well, that makes you, we know what it makes you if you have that third position, right? You're the most evil of all. Anyway, and I remember this whole thing is that these children, these people these disparate people run accidentally into these kids who are trying to escape this military base. These kids, their mothers were exposed to radiation, so they're immune to radiation. The government is trying to raise them and train them to repopulate the earth after the nuclear wars that they pretty much predict are coming. Problem is they're also highly radioactive. Well, you know what that means for these people trying to help these children, having no idea that these children who are innocent. It's actually really sad, especially the last minute of the film when you hear them crying because they're locked away again by these government people. But the very people that try to help them, what happens when you're exposed to lots of huge amounts of radiation? That's what I'm saying with this film. Like, all the political stuff aside, I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay, to me, it's more relevant today. Okay, in terms of conspiracies and whatnot. But whatever, you know, that's what makes this film really amazing. To me, at least that's my opinion. You may not like it, but and yeah, like that. Right. A bold film for the Cold War '60s. The Cold War, the sham war, right? Now, it wasn't a sham war for a lot of people. The proxy wars. Luckily, we don't have any of those today, right? Yeah, Ali, look at him. Obviously he's a tall guy. I'm not super tall, but man, I have the look on my face all the fucking time. Yeah, I guess I gave something away.